Thursday, January 27th. Do we have a motion to open the meeting?
Motion to open.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First thing we have is some minutes from January 19th, 2022. Quick second look at that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Could I be added to this as a guest?
You can.
I'm the liaison, so it would be nice. Thank you.
Yeah, all right.
She just wants her attendance noted in the minutes.
Yeah.
That friendly amendment, we will do that. All right, reading mail, none. Appointments, none. Capital spending.
Mr. Chairman, before we get started, I just want to report an error on information I gave out at our last meeting. And it's on your copy here. And basically what I reported that for the golf season F121, we did 35,000 rounds, and the revenue was more like, let me get the exact number.
That's what, 21?
Yeah, this was for the golf season.
Okay, that was 38,262. This is
52.
yeah, the rounds.
I forget what,
38,252. Yeah.
you got it? So what it actually was, no, it was 35, it was actually 38. And the revenue was, I think I reported something like 1,000,007, and it was actually 1,928,000.
Okay.
And this came to pass when Dana sent me the detail of potential greens fees, and the total revenue was 1,000,009. And I said, something's wrong. So I went back, and in between the fiscal and the seasonal, I screwed something up, so I apologize. But that's the real number. During that last golf season from March through November, we did 38,252 rounds. In January, 1,928,000. So I just want to make that correction.
You know, and every year it's always a little odd because the golf season spans 2 fiscal years. So to try and capture what
Right.
we do in a season versus what we do in a fiscal year.
Because based on fiscal 21, it looks like we generated 2 million.
Mm-hmm.
But the golf season of FY21, it was 1,000,009.
All right, that's good. We have that update. Now we have capital spending. I believe this is the balance that's remaining from the previously authorized town meeting articles.
Correct. And what needs to be discussed is that's all we are appropriated to spend. And the question Steve has brought before me and I, the fact that if we're going to do any cart paths, it would behoove DPW to prep them now and get ready for laying down the asphalt as soon as the
Plant's open.
Plant is open. So that's where we are. Manny and I, Steve had recommended some areas of asphalt that under consideration, and Manny and I reviewed those. And although the things he pointed out, I think, are certainly things that needs to be replaced, I'm not sure it's a top priority for those items. And we discussed some options, Manny, myself, and Steve, and Steve did come up with some options. Did you have that information before?
Yeah, I had all this information before. The one thing that we, you know, when we had met earlier, when we actually went out into the field and looked at the cart paths, we had discussed doing bunker work on the second hole, doing the cart path on the second hole, and possibly doing the cart path on the eighth hole. After that discussion, and supplying a revised quote for the bunker work on the second hole, David pointed out that because of the amount of the bunker work on the second hole, that there is a process through which we have to go through, even though we're only using a single individual from a company and not hiring the company plus his or her employees. And after looking at that, or after discussing that at our last meeting this past Tuesday, we decided if that was something we were going to do, then it's not something we can rush into and do right now. So the bunker work on the second hole, we discussed postponing that till the fall, so we can go through the process as David outlined and make sure we have our I's and T's in the proper place. And also, we looked at the bunker work, or excuse me, the cart path work on the eighth hole, and having some discussion about postponing that till the fall as well. My only concern down there on the eighth hole is that that's going to be extremely difficult work to do when golfers are actually on the course. So we may have to wait till December when we are closed, because we're talking about an excavator and 10-wheel trucks trying to fit in on that par 3 around the corner when you're going to the 9th green and try to accommodate golfers and so on. And it's just going to be
tight already.
Yeah, it's just going to be a mess. So in lieu of that, the question came up, so okay, well, what is it that you think we can do? So we had a discussion, and we looked at some other options. We looked at the storage container that we had discussed previously. And Ed had mentioned his desire to possibly do some isolation valves. So I took the $2 amounts that were available, $12,787 from the 2019 town meeting article, and $19,625 from the 2020 town meeting article, came to a total of $32,412. And what I did was just put some options out there. Now, and Ed had mentioned earlier that I had some cart path ideas that he reviewed that he had believed to be good ideas, but maybe not necessary at that time. And seeing as how we couldn't do or decide that it would be in our best interest to do the cart path and bunker work on 2 and 8 in the fall, so we're still looking at the $32,000. So of course, me being somewhat stubborn, came back with some of the cart paths that I suggested earlier, which would be a cart path and a berm by the first tee, which Dan had already measured out and gave us an estimate of $3,100 on. Cart path work along the 18th green, which would include the cart path and the berm. I chose those two because it's our beginning and finishing holes, and it would dress up the course a little bit, and it would make that experience for the golfers just that much better. We have an issue with drainage on the first hole, and when it rains, the cart path floods. So I thought those would be two options. So I put those in there. Dan and I went out today and measured the new request for cart path work on the second hole. One of the cart paths will be, a portion of the cart path work is up by the second tee itself, where the roots from the pine trees have heaved the path. Then I went down and looked at it. We identified the trees that he felt needed to come out in order for him to put the cart path in successfully and not have the same issue reoccurring. There are 5 pine trees and 1 oak. I had a tree company come out today and give us an estimate of their removal. That estimate was $2,500, and the repair work, I'm waiting to hear back from Dan for the repair work to the cart path on the second hole. If we go across the bridge, we looked at some issues on the cart path from the bridge to the rock outcropping on the left-hand side. There's a couple cracks in the cart path. There is one crack that causes you to actually bounce in the golf cart when you go over top of it. So we looked at that, and I asked Dan, so what about taking this section out and that section out and this section? And he looked at me, he said, by the time you take all these sections out, you might as well pave the whole thing from the bridge up to the rock. He said, because I can take the whole thing out, I can put the proper base in, I can get, you won't have the cracks. He said, because every time where I cut and where I fill, you have the potential for water to get in and create cracks again. So I had him measure that out, and he took that information back with me. He's going to give us an estimate on that one. And then up around the corner on the second hole, there is a dip or depression in the cart path, which is basically 45 feet long, and for his paving machine, it's 8.5 feet wide. So he took that measurement. He's going to give me estimates on those. The one beneficial thing with Dan is he has all the base material in his yard. So basically what we're paying for is asphalt. And right now, he said, if he can come in, he said in many instances it's better for him to dig in circumstances where the ground is frozen, because he does less damage. Especially moving the excavator out there, because there's only one way to get the excavator out there. We may have to go across the, may have to lay down boards and go across the 5th fairway. We're not going to be able to drive the excavator all the way down to 4, all the way around 3, and all, just too many other things to damage in that path. So we had that as an option. We put in some isolation valves. I put some costs down for the 2 isolation valves that I thought were most important. And I guess, and there was one irrigation project that we'd like to complete on the 15th hole. We weren't capable of completing it last year because we basically ran out of materials. And I also discussed with him the possibility of coming out and doing small cart path repairs in places where we have holes. He's got basically a pickup truck trailer type unit that you can fill with X amount of asphalt. He can come out, make cuts, put that asphalt in, bring his smaller roller out, roll it over, and make these patches. So his suggestion for that is, we'll just, fill up the, you fill the machine at cost, and you come out at the beginning of the day and just start doing them until you can't do anymore. Whether or not that gets all of them done, or you may have to come back and do some others. And again, in that same instance, we're basically paying for the asphalt. So I guess, where you're sitting now, at least in my opinion, you have $32,412 to spend. You spend it on something now, or a portion of it on something now, and save the rest for spending later. I had hoped that for later things like number 2 bunker and number 8 cart path, that we have a town meeting at some point and are able to submit the article that we discussed several meetings ago, and then take funds from that to do those particular projects. Or you keep the $32,000. Really, it's up to the, it's up to your disposal. I mean, we have the option of doing some of these things now, and because we wouldn't be doing the second hole at second bunker would work at approximately $20,000 cost, and the cart path and drainage work on 18 is approximately a $10,000 cost. You have the $32,000 that you could spend on some of these other things. So I guess, this basic question is, do you want to spend the money now to make some improvements, or do you want to hold on to it and wait till next time around. And as I said, him coming in to do the cart path work, he can come in and lay the base right now. So all he has to do is when the asphalt plant opens is, bring the asphalt in and there you go. It may have touched the base up a little bit. He also measured the parking lot today as a possibility to do in the future. And we discussed how we would be able to, the parking lot right now has 2 levels to it. We're going, he's got to do some grading to get the water to go into the detention basin system that was originally designed for the parking lot. But again, he said that's something that we could do, that we could do. He could come in now and at least look at leveling it if he wanted to have that done, because there's some holes in it where where people constantly are going to turn, which has thrown the stones out and stuff, and some other places that could use to be leveled. So I think that's where he said, as far as my opinion for capital projects. And if we want to spend, we have some money to spend, we can spend it now, make some of these improvements, or we can hold on to it. It's really, it's your discretion. I'm not bashful. I'm for spending money if I have it, because like my uncle said, he said, you got it in your pocket, save some of it, spend the rest. He said, because next month you might not have it. And Dan said these prices and these quotes aren't getting any better. He said the cost of the materials are going to go up, and it's not going to be any better than the prices that we have right now.
Steve,
as far as carpet.
How long, if you prepped 8, how long do you think it would take them to lay the asphalt once we've prepped it?
I would, getting the trucks in there and laying the asphalt, making the corner, doing the berm, I'd say you're probably talking about at least half a day. If you get started, and it depends on when the asphalt plant opens by half a day. I'd say till 12, but if the plant doesn't open till a certain time, that might be. But instead of half a day, I'd say 4 to 5 hours anyway. And the whole question down there is getting in there and doing that when it's not wet. You try to get down there and do that when it's the wet season, and you're just going to make a mess.
Right.
He's having had looked at it, he said there's some places where he may have to lift the paths up a little bit, so it's not subject to the continuous wetting and drying and causing the blacktop to crack and heave and so on. So.
What about in the winter? Can he give you an estimate to move the water from the 9T to underneath the 8 cart path in Fairway?
Really, for him to do that, the only cost estimate be involved there would be the actual drain tile or drain pipe, and possibly some crushed stone, depending on how we decide to do it. We didn't get a chance. He had some other appointments today, so we didn't get a chance to go back down over 8. I wanted to look down there and see if there was a possibility of, instead of allowing that water to come in the path that it does across the 8 cart path in front of the T, if there's some way that we can redirect it and go alongside of where the ladies' T is and take it back to the depression back there that was originally put in to collect the water, and run it under the 6-inch pipe that goes between the 2 T's and out into the waste area on the left side of the cart path. And I'm thinking that if we change some of the berming, we can control a good portion of that seepage from the 9 hole in that direction, so the water that actually accumulates in front of the 8th hole isn't that significant. We may have to raise the rough up a little bit and pitch the water so it pitches towards the left. That's all going to be determined when we come out there with a theodolite or a level and shoot some angles and find out what's higher and what's not. There was the possibility. They're up there on the left-hand side of that fairway by the green is what I assume was constructed as similar to a detention basin, which prior to me coming here, I don't think it was ever maintained, and it was just allowed to grow up. Because I've asked several people who've lived in town forever, and they said that used to be a gravel pit down there and a sand pit, and they said there wasn't any wet areas down there until they started digging and, mining the sand and creating pockets for things to sit in, for water to sit in. So that area to the left of that fairway, I was, I probably have to talk to the conservation folks, but I was thinking of being able to do is getting there and clean that up. So it goes back to the original function that it was supposed to have. And then in the wintertime, I could come in there like I do out back and cut the material down so it doesn't grow back up. Because you will notice that about 2/3 of the way through the season, it grows up so high that I've got to go in there in the middle of the season and cut it down because the golfers, it blocks your shot coming from the left to the hole to the from left side to the right.
To ask you, do you think if we were allowed to clean that up, that might assist with those 2 bunkers on 8?
It would assist with them if we lifted those up.
Yeah.
Because
No, I mean,
part
do you
of
think if you just clean it, would that assist in drawing, the water into that catch area?
Yeah, those 2 bunkers, unfortunately, they never put a drain in them, so they don't drain into that catchment. But we could do that. As part of the original discussion for 8 was to fill that bunker in, those 2 bunkers in. And what we were going to do was take some of the excavate from putting the cart path in on the left-hand side of the hole and use that to raise the floor of the bunker and reshape the bunker into a grass swale and not have a bunker there. You still want to put a drain in it because you don't want water sitting in a grass swale. It's going to sit there just as easily as it is going to sit in a sand trap. But since we're, leaning towards moving to the right, or putting that cart path into the right side of that hole, that eliminates your fill. And it basically, enables you, it kind of makes your job more difficult because you could actually put the bunker or the cart path in on the left-hand side and work while you're playing golf, and people would use the existing. Then when you're ready to open the other one, you pave it and open it, and then you tear out the existing, and you don't have the disruption at all. So if you did have to have the issue where the beginning of the season, the end of the season were wet, then you could possibly come in there in the middle of the season and work when it's dry.
What's the cost difference between right and left?
About $2 to $3 grand, and it's basically the length. So, but again, coming back to doing anything for capital projects this spring, I would, like I said, I'd love to spend some money on a couple of things. I think the storage container is a definite, but other than that, that's the pleasure, desire, or what have you of you folks.
It seems to me that DPW has the time and the capability to help us now and get something done. That's probably, this cart path work is something I think we could do. Because if we say, okay, we need to redo a bunker, but we couldn't do it until X amount of time down the road anyway, well, why not address the things now that we can address now?
Right.
It's being available.
Yeah, the bunker situation, unless we do it in-house like we did on 4 and 11, having people available to get a schedule in place and get something accomplished doesn't look like it's going to happen. The golf industry's busy, and it's just not worthy of it.
Well, it's not going to happen in the spring.
Right.
If you want to do a project in the fall, now's the time to sign them up for it because they're making their fall
to get
schedule.
a little more detail on the planning and get it scheduled on some.
You got to get on the books, definitely.
And the same thing, we can do a lot less expensive having the DPW do it. But again, that's a scheduling thing and time availability and getting a period of time that they can focus on it and assist it. They seem to do a pretty good job. They did.
Yeah, they knock it out.
Pretty good job on 11. Pretty good job on 4. So. But back to cart paths. I think the push is, in my estimation, is to get the entire golf course cart path. And 2 that is missing now are 12 and 14.
Right.
Discussion with Steve is that he doesn't feel 14 is that much of an issue with shutting down the golf course, but 12 could be. So I think we need to either 12 or repair 2 that is a mess really from tee all the way to the green, and 8. But until we get a better plan on those, I don't know what we can do with this stuff, my estimation. As far as the storage container, Steve has been recommending that for a while. We bought one trailer, and he suggested that we relocated the trailer so that he can put the second one next to it and put a cover over between them so we can store other pieces of equipment.
Between the two.
The issue here that I see is that we bought the first storage container because the current facility is so full. In order to start the day, you gotta get everything out of the building. And then start
you
your
gotta
work,
stack
and
it.
before you close up, you gotta do the same thing. So if we can maybe identify what we're gonna put in those trailers and then open things up so the mechanic can get to work early and accomplish some of the repair items, it might be worth doing. And that's kind of just a out and purchase item. And you've got a quote for $6,900.
$6,645 for a trailer exactly the same as the one that we currently have.
And there's a
How
shipping
about
charge.
putting a garage door on the other
That's from
side?
Voltran.
Is it
I
transport?
think
Put a
that's
garage
all,
door on
I
the
think
other
that's
side of
all
the building,
included.
so
Does that include that,
There's garage
There
doors
is.
on both sides.
There is.
There
Yes.
are.
You can-
Well, the
the delivery is included on that 16?
well, I am going to see, I believe it was,
On his garage section, there's two doors. On the dry storage,
Sides.
it's closed off.
yeah, they do make them with double doors at both ends, but those are about $8,000 and they're, good luck in trying to find one. Voltran says they don't have any and they don't anticipate getting any anytime soon. Okay, it says here, oh, that's the double wide, I'm sorry, that's the big one. It says here, purchase price $6,500, delivery fee $145, total amount $6,645. So in answer to your question, that includes delivery.
And basically, Steve asked for agreement to move his trailer, and Manny and I gave him that permission. So he worked with DPW and moved the trailer and did a pretty good layout.
Yeah, Dan did a nice job.
And so it looks like it's
Ready
it's
to
waiting
take
for
it.
the trailer. So we can't do it. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but
Nobody made a
looks like
mound,
it's-
and it's
it's
all
all
graded,
it's-
and one is on the left side, he's gonna put the next one on the right side, right?
Yeah, we measured it out and everything in anticipation.
And you still have a path to go up to the right.
Yeah, while he was working, he improved the road that goes up the
To the
hill
right,
to the
right.
driving range. Because we had discussed having him come in, we have a lot of material up there that could be screened and could be used. And we
It would
discussed
be
that
a way
with
to
him.
bring it back and forth.
Yeah, exactly, to
Right.
bring it back and forth, with big trucks and stuff, so.
I think it's a good idea, but the other thing is Steve's gotta get rid of some of that old stuff that is occupying a lot of room there. And manage that in first, but he has a hard time getting rid of those things because they don't want them in trade-ins. Is that correct?
No, they don't want to take, no. Once it's past a certain number of hours, they're reluctant to take it in trade. What they do offer you is we'll take it to auction for you. It'll cost us $100 to take it to auction. Whatever we make an auction over $100, we'll send back to you. Is their offer opposed to trade it.
But
Flag 'em.
as long as we keep them, they don't
Flag
want
the
to
ones
do,
that
they don't want
think
to.
are not
That's
worth
fine.
anything.
Yeah, really.
If the
Well,
space is
probably,
more valuable,
I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here, now, we did that, we made a decision, we ordered some equipment at the end of October, November. Fairway mower isn't coming until 2023.
oh yeah, don't get rid of anything you need, obviously.
Well, so we're,
now we
so
gotta
even though even though when it comes, that's when we can get rid of the other
Right.
one unless we wanna, they won't do that swap, go to auction thing unless they're dropping something off. So I've got one other, there's a company out in the western portion of the state that I'm going to contact, and they buy used equipment, see if they're interested in coming over and taking a look at it and seeing what they give us for it.
I do.
That's just that big fairway mower that's sitting out there. Other than that, the other things that we have in the garage that kind of take up space that, like the power brush that we use for brushing the greens. When you're not brushing the greens, you have to stand it up somewhere, and you just can't leave it outside because it's going to rust and it's not going to work properly. Same thing with our bunker cleaner. We don't use it all the time, but we do use it, and and it occupies a certain space. The verticutter for the fairway unit, the big verticut, we use it 2 or 3 different times a year, but it needs to be stored somewhere. These are the type of things that don't get used quite often. That some of them we can put in that trailer, free open up space inside the building, and then we can use some of that space to put utility vehicles in, which makes it easier to move through the building and get to what you need to get to in the morning, and then put away in the afternoon.
I do have a question on the cart path prep work. If we prepped the cart paths out, would you be able to ride on them that way, or was that room?
Yeah, initially. I mean, I wouldn't want to go too long on it, because you might you might basically spread the mix out. But yeah, initially, because when he comes in and preps it, what he's going to do is he's going to come out and he's going to take out the old part path. He's going to do what excavation he needs to do, because he looked in the cart paths that he's encountered on the golf course so far, he said their base is woefully insignificant. It's not deep enough, and that's part of the problem we're having. So he goes down 6 or so inches and puts you a good solid 4 to 6 inch base under there. So you're going to have that base, and once he puts that down there, he'll take the big roller and roll it. So it'll be compacted and ready to go. So it's not going to be loose on the top. So yeah, I mean, initially you could drive a cart over it, but he would try to, as soon as the asphalt.
I think the plan is to get as soon as the plant opens up in March.
Right,
sometime.
but is that something we're interested in doing, and maybe prep the 2 and 8 and get it all ready, so that if in fact that plant, we have a mild spring and the plant's open, and I think there's one in Rochester that opens.
There's one in Rochester. Then it all and there's another one.
Yeah,
it just depends on what mix he's going to get, because certain plants make certain mixes, and you have to get the I mean, it used to be real convenient because you could go down the street here, but I don't know if that's going to work. But yeah, I look at that, and if you were to do something like 18, when it's ready to blacktop, you just choose that day and you start play off at 10. He'll be in here first thing in the morning. He'll be done before they come around.
You can do 18 and 1 at the same time,
and be done before they come around, and it wouldn't, but they could use it once it was prepped.
What do you think?
I think we should buy the trailer and hold the rest of it until we get a better plan what we want to do, and get a firmer quote from Dan, exactly what we need to do, how many trees we need to have removed.
Well, I know how many trees need to be removed, because we looked at all that when he and I went out there originally and looked at the cart paths. Huh?
How many trees?
Depends on the hole. Like if you go down the 8, the right-hand side, no, when you come around that corner, you go past the forward tee and you start to make that corner,
you can see
from the
cracks.
point where that corner turns, from there all the way up to the back of that tee, gone. Because that not only helps.
Those trees are what, 6 feet off the cart path?
Some of them are right up against it, some of them are 6 feet off, but their problem is the cart path intrusion, but it's also the fact that it shades 3/4 of that hole for the majority of the day.
Right.
And like Mel Lucas said, and like Mr. Mungeon, I mean, I walk down there with Mungeon, the architect. He looked at me and said, "What are all those doing there?" And I said, "It ain't up to me." And Mel said the same thing.
We need to retain the character,
Yeah.
but we need to cut the trees.
Well, obviously, when you're looking at cart paths and the cost of them, the cart path is more valuable than the tree.
And I'm sure when the original contractor, Paganis, when he put the cart paths in, it was more like a gun to his head to get it done.
Yeah, and they just cut the path right over top of the roots.
Right.
And you can, I mean, you up there by the second tee, the big root is sticking right out of the.
That's going to be.
And Dan said he's not going to come in here and do all that work and leave the root there, so a year from now it pushes up through again.
And the other issue on like 8 is, Steve mentioned on 2, trying to get the excavator across the 5th fairway. We need a real good plan to make sure we can get to the cart path on 8 without destroying the rest of the golf course. Because when we tried to did some work on 11, all those trucks came in.
There's the only way to get down there.
18, it's like,
So an 8,
we need to
I
plan.
mean, there is obviously, there's gonna be a little bit of.
well, on
mess.
8, the option is, and
You gotta
as
talk
Dan
to
and
the
I
old man
suggest,
across the street.
well, it's not it's his son who owns the farm. The older gentleman who takes care of the goats, that's kind of his hobby thing down there. He,
Those guys play all the time.
Well, the fella who owns the house back there, the son, said that, we've already discussed it once, that was 2 years ago. And he said, my major concern is making sure that the entryway is, repaired when the work is finished, but it's also that his father can get down there and take care of his animals and do what he needs to do, which wouldn't be an issue. And Dan said he had no problem fixing that. But I said, part of the plan moving forward would be for he and I to go over there and reacquaint ourselves to that gentleman, and Dan can therefore explain to him how he's going to repair the road, so he understands how that's going to be. I mean, it's a pretty substantial road as it is now, so I don't think it's going to be too much damage to it. And like I said, if we plan or stage it properly, there's not going to the primary hauling in and out is going to be the base mix and the asphalt, because we can use the material that we excavate from the base to create the better base. We can use that down there to do some filling and other things. Because you take those trees down, we're going to pull all those stumps down, so we're going to have some places to fill between 8 and 9.
Right.
So we can fill that, and we can grass that, so if somebody does happen to pop a ball over there, at least they're going to be able to find it. They're not in the briars, and they may have a playable shot. But I mean, you don't. That's, again, Dan looked at it, he said, when we were looking at 1 and 18, he said, either do it now, if you want to let it wait, you let it wait, but,
Prices go up.
you're gonna, you put the money aside, and then we don't do it, and then it starts to fall apart again, and then, when are we gonna do it the next time? And
One problem that came, and then we discussed it, and Harry and I discussed it also with him, with Steve, is if we decide to put this clubhouse up, or when we be able to do it, we're going to put blacktop in the area that we're going to put the clubhouse. So that is not a priority. We have to live with that until we hope that in the near future we can do that and take care of the others.
yeah, but you're not going to
Yeah, but on
eliminate.
18,
You're
that
not going to
one-
eliminate
this-
the cart path
That
on the
18,
18th hole.
that's a big hole, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well-
all the part of the 18 toll is going to be because the clubhouse, the way I see it, and the way that was explained to us before with our town inspector here, was that they were going to use the practice green,
Yeah.
which is right next to the 18. That whole piece over there is going to
Well, the
changed,
practice
so-
green, there's approximately 75 to 80 feet of the practice green coming down backwards towards the gazebo on the left-hand side. So, yeah, I mean, you've got a piece there that you may disrupt, you're not going to disrupt, but I look at it now, I mean, what is the condition of that going to be? What is it currently, the condition of it currently for your golfers? What's the condition going to be of that for the next 8 years?
Right.
That you're going to sit here and wait before, I mean,
Yeah, well,
I'm
it's not
62.
gonna get any
If there's a
smaller.
clubhouse built there before I turn 70, I'll be real surprised. Not to shoot anybody's
Don't worry
plans
about
there.
that. I think
We
you
could
probably
patch,
see one.
we could probably patch
So,
that hole with
I probably
asphalt.
see one, Steve.
So that's the $1,400 for that?
No, that's the $1,400 there.
I can't see.
Let me see, I gotta get back in here, shut
Let's
off.
throw money down the river.
So
The
number 18.
$1,400 there is the patch on, down by the swale in that cart path that was broken up. There's 2 holes down there that was broken up when they did 11 with the big trucks. The 18th green is $4,500, and the majority of that is from the putting green side down the hill back towards the tee, not from the putting green side back up the other
I
way.
think that's the place that they're gonna work on, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if you're gonna come in there and you're gonna build a clubhouse there behind where the putting green is, you're gonna come in behind the 10th tee, and that 10th tee is gonna be, that open area behind the 10th tee is gonna be your staging area, because you've got nowhere else to stage unless you're gonna
Right.
stage where your tent
Clear all
is.
those trees.
So that's gonna be cleared out, that's gonna be your staging area. You're gonna need to turn around to get a 10-wheeler truck in there to do your excavation. You got a significant amount of irrigation in and around that green that you're going to have to tear out. And that irrigation comes up from the 6th hole, behind the first tee, underneath that cart path to that box behind the putting green. So you're going to have to tear that up at some point anyway, because you have to redirect the water. I mean, you got more than just putting the building up there. And like I said, I mean, I don't want to put a damper on anybody's plans, but we've been talking for a clubhouse for the last 21 years, and it ain't there yet. And I think the golfers would have more satisfaction initially, and from a portion of that cart path right up there by the green where it's just falling apart. I mean, it's getting to the point now where it's not wide enough for our equipment to drive over it because it's falling apart.
Even if you have two cots that they
Or somebody wants to go and buy somebody.
They're
Yeah,
killing the grass on both sides.
yeah. So you can't go around.
So,
it. But-
okay, can we, what's the bottom line for all this? And that's your estimate for everything we're talking about, including the trailer.
Well, I've got three or four different options. Your estimate runs anywhere from $27,874 worth of expense, which would leave you a residual of $4,538, up to $32,374, which would give you a leftover of $38. Or just spend $6,000 or so on the.
Is there a time constraint that we have to use this money on?
No.
I'm just saying,
Yeah. No, I
if you
know.
want to do it in this
So
trade.
you gotta go before the Board of Selectmen, get their approval to spend them.
Right.
Because you already got it approved in an article, so now you have to go back and get approval to spend it?
Yes.
And people wonder why municipalities never get nothing done on time or in budget. It's crazy.
Moving right along.
So, again, if you want to spend something, you want to spend $6,600 on a trailer, so be it. You don't want to spend any other money, so be it. But I think it would be an improvement for the golfers, and I think the golfers would really
I think
recognize
the
that you're doing
biggest
something for them.
improvement we could do, I agree with everybody, trying to make little improvements. I think the biggest improvement would be paving the parking lot.
It's highly visible. I think
That would be one
eight's
big improvement.
in rough shape. That's my vote.
Oh, no,
And 2 is also in great shape.
But 2 is not pretty either.
But
Yeah, no, you're right. I know.
You get the corner right
Yeah,
in the
no, I know.
tee. You got all that front that is just.
We gotta get more detail as to how.
Well, I mean, the two in the parking lot were new as of our discussion, or not so much new,
Right,
but
right.
brought to the forefront this past Tuesday. Dan came out today, we took the measurements, so he's going to get the estimate back to me. So I'm assuming that the cart path on 2, looking at the distance and the type of work done, I'm going to look at that cart path and say that's going to be anywhere total for the T portion plus the extension plus fixing the dip. And Dan said we could come out up to the green and fix the holes. And he agreed with me. He said, if you're going to do the bunker work, he said, don't do the cart path now because I'm going to be driving over top of it. So he said, the
Makes
majority
sense,
of that cart
I
path,
know, that's what started this conversation.
I'm looking at
It's just, and then you had 20,000.
$35,000 to $40,000.
It's like,
You're wasting it. if
we
you-
need to
if you
do it
overrule
in-house, but now it's the time to do it in-house. And before you do the car path, it just catches
Can't win.
situation.
So I'll have an estimate from him on that probably by the beginning of next week, depending on how much snow we get on Saturday.
I actually think the car path, paving the parking lot, could be something in consideration for the CPA funding. Which again, I don't know the process to get that on their agenda, and present that and be part of that CPA funding. But 10% it needs to go for sports and recreational type activities. Might be a perfect thing to do it.
I believe they have an application that you have to fill out and submit.
But I think we should investigate whether that can be done. If you get an estimate and you get between that board, get it approved, and that would, to me, come and play golf every other day or whatever. That parking lot is a mess.
Yeah.
And
It's better now than it's ever been, but it ain't pretty
Still
still.
a mess.
Right, I think it's a big improvement if we put asphalt.
So since we can't come to a consensus right now on asphalt, we're still waiting on some estimates for that and for 2. Do we want to go ahead with at least saying, we'll do the trailer now out of this capital? Is that what we're looking to do? I mean, personally, I'm not in favor of adding more and more trailers. I just don't like the look of them, but
I know.
what everybody else wants,
Well, the first request several years ago was a new building, but we know that one's going
Yeah,
nowhere.
that didn't go over too
So that
well.
didn't go over too well.
No,
So.
but by the time you buy 3 or 4.
Well, it would only be 2.
It won't be any more.
I'm not adding any more after this
I
one.
think you said that after the first one.
Well, he's
No,
gonna-
I held out the possibility for a second.
And he's gonna end up with 3 instead of 1.
That's what I'm
Because he's
saying.
gonna
Right,
open
so
the
we
middle.
pay-
Well, the longer I have to keep equipment, the more I have to keep
They're
going.
paying
So.
$20 a square foot for a trailer. You could-
And then the rest we gotta study a
Huh?
little bit better.
No, I wouldn't want to build it to cost the lumber this day and age. I mean,
I build a steel addition.
well, I already went through a steel edition, but we didn't shut that down. too.
So, all right, so do we, if someone wants to make a motion on the trailer?
Yes, I'll make the motion.
Now, you nothing
Push the
about the
trailer.
irrigation addition on the 15th hole? I mean, if I had, push come to shove, you don't want to do anything else, I'd do the trailer in the 15th hole, which comes to $10,745.
Let's talk about whether we can find another way for that funding, for the 15.
Okay, so you're looking at $6,645 for a storage trailer, and that's it.
Of the,
Yeah, from
The team.
What he started and hasn't completed. So
yeah.
I got all kinds of ideas to spend money. Good.
You got
so maybe we
5
should-
miles of track, there's a lot of space.
Randy made a motion for the trailer. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second
John
it.
does.
So that other money's gonna sit there until we come up with some kind of legitimate
Right.
plan as far as not wrecking the golf course with the equipment.
Right.
So why don't we get Dan in here one day, if he can, and then we'll get a clearer view. Not saying that he doesn't give you a clearer view, but there might be something in there that,
Well, we already spoke about the second hole, not how to wreck the golf course.
yeah,
And we have a plan for getting from the 6th hole to the second hole without having any issues. Just it's not a plan that I'd rather discuss right now because he and I haven't finalized it.
okay.
But we, as far as wrecking, and then on 8, your
So
only
then
option
that just
is.
means we need more work,
Right.
more planning, what needs to be done. and-
Let me ask you a question. On the second hole, before you put the carpet, you're gonna put the drain from the bunker, right?
The drain from the bunker on the second hole.
Because you're gonna go to the waste area, right?
Yeah, we could either drain it down that way or we could drain it down the bottom of the hill. Yeah, but the cart path, like I said, when we measured it today, we stopped after the dip. We didn't go up and do the part by the green. If you want to do the whole
We need
thing,
to go back and make sure we get it.
we have to, it's simple. I mean, all you have to do is extrapolate. He gives me the cost for the amount, the distance that we measured. You put it in a fraction, you compare it to the new amount of distance you're going to, the price it costs, and you can get the same expense. I'm just saying that up by the green, since you weren't going to do the bunker work right away, it doesn't make any sense to put the brand new cart path in there. Because if you happen to be working over there and you need to go over there with the excavator, you need to back a truck up there or something, you're going to be driving right over top of what you did. So, you do all the other parts, which we don't have to drive over in order to do work on the second hole. And then, we'll worry about that part up by the bunker later.
We gotta come up with a better plan.
All right.
So I'd like to see a plan in chronological by what we want to do, but also in chronological order of the best way to do it. Like you're saying, because we mentioned 2, then we say, what? If we want to do the bunker, we always do the bunker first, we're not going to the asphalt. Well, let's just get it in writing in that order. And when we back up, because I want to make ourselves legal, we had a motion, we had a second, and we didn't vote on the trailer, so let's just make it legal. All in favor of the trailer?
Aye.
All right. Now I say we want to.
Just understood that needs to be approved by the Board of Select, so spending on that funding,
For the trailer,
the trail.
okay.
Right, so it has our support, so. Good.
The
B.
next meeting is February 15th, so,
For the select.
yeah, we'll put that on the agenda.
For us.
Selectmen.
So that means,
All right, finance meeting, Ed?
what's that?
I was just reading letter B, finance meeting.
The finance meeting, yeah.
Capital
Just,
spending
we
is done.
need to go the budget before the finance meeting on February 2nd, I believe.
That's a good day.
Um,
Second. I think
I like that.
So the finance committee contacted me, and they would like to meet with me on February 9th at 7 o'clock.
Did they come?
I got an email from Kathy.
Fine.
Is that right? She gave me options. She said, what about this day? And I said, do you have anything earlier? Because it was the later meeting. I got 32 mile drive. She says, how about 7 o'clock on the 9th?
Well, I'm sorry, I was at the meeting yesterday and they
Yeah.
confirmed golf next week on the
Yeah,
2nd.
on the 2nd.
So I don't, when did you hear from Kathy?
I heard from Kathy. It probably won't come up. Let me,
Was it
We
today?
just got, we got another thing that emailed. Well,
no, it wasn't today. Come on.
What time did you have for us on the 2nd?
Well, our meeting
7:04.
starts at 7 and we're looking at 4 budgets and you were one of them.
7
So,
o'clock.
yeah. In this room.
Use the phone as a hotspot so I can see this bloody thing.
Don't ask me, it's my birthday.
That's the date that I have, was the 2nd.
That's what I keep hearing, so.
So finance committee meeting is on.
All right, so, the next day or so, get that
All
confirmed.
right.
So Dana and Steve will attend that meeting?
It'd be great if they could, as our department heads.
Okay. Yeah, I'm that way. So if I look here, I have an email from Kathy Miller on Friday, the 21st of
Got it.
January. Yes, she said, in her email, it says, I can put you down for February 9th at 7 p.m. That would be the committee's first appointment. Will that work better for you? I said, sure, 7 p.m. would be fine, earlier the better. The first email that I got says, hi, hope you've been healthy, well, all that good stuff. The Finance Committee has started budget hearings for FY23. Would you be available to come in on February 2nd? So, I mean, yeah, I can come in on the 2nd too, that's not a problem, but the last I heard from her was February 9th at 7 p.m. So if you all say it's the 2nd, then I'll come in the 2nd. Because my response to her was, what time would it be on February 2nd? And then her, what do you think?
So we'll be here
Her
on the 2nd.
response would be, finance committees have been starting at 7 and there are 3 appointments before you, so it could be between 7:45 and 8 o'clock. So those are the correspondences I got from Kathy Murray.
So
Be
you
here
got
on
the
the 2nd.
February 2nd first, right?
Yes.
So they reschedule for the 9th, right?
All right, so I'll be here in a second.
Let me confirm.
Yeah, that's fine.
And
I'm
I'll
just
get
saying,
back to
because-
Mr. Flynn tomorrow as to which date. I believe it's the 2nd.
I got it, that's what we said, last time we said it was the 2nd.
I know, but I don't know what this is about, so.
Well, those are the emails that it's a correspondence that she sent me. So I just responded to them, and that's it.
We'll find that
I mean,
out.
it's the 2nd, it's fine. It's just,
Let's move on.
C, we don't see, are we skipping C? Letter C, are we doing, on the agenda, are we doing, or is everyone over skipping? I thought so. Skipping C.
Can't get out of here.
D, new hires for 2022 opening.
I put a memo in your package that I prepared to submit to the Board of Selectmen for the new hires for both the operation and maintenance to start the 2022 golf season.
Yeah.
First one is a full-time replacement of Al Geronimo with Zachary Triplady.
Tiplady, that A between the P and the L doesn't belong.
Okay.
Tiplady.
Okay. Tip lady.
And seasonal workers, which are part-time for operations.
These guys.
Calvin Downey, Kevin Andrews,
Bielski.
Gary Bleski,
Yes.
and Mike Lewis. And maintenance, Andre Ramos and Todd Crosschenkel.
Cross-check.
Crosschenkel. Thank you.
Bielski. You're Polish. All right.
All right. We get a motion to support this memo of these hires for the opening. That's what we know right now.
I'll make a motion.
Any other questions?
Second.
Okay, Bob, second. Yes.
Would you prefer I hold my questions till next week? Or would you like to get them now?
Well, right now we have a motion and a second on who we want for
Understood.
staff. So is the question about these staff members? Or?
Yes, well, positions, are they all the seasonal positions new or existing?
That
That falls into the current level of staffing that we've always had as of right now, correct?
It's a lot of it new in support, for example, bringing rangers on.
Yeah, but we had ranges when I first started, so we eliminated them
Yeah,
and we're bringing them back.
10
So-
years ago, right.
Well, no,
It's
yeah.
really to support the volume of players out on the golf course. They're all figured in the budget, the budget plan that will be submitted.
Okay, but they are new then?
Hires,
They're new
but they're
hires.
not
New
new
hires.
positions. Because as over the last 10 years, I've lost Sean Farrell, I've lost Mel, I've lost George. I've lost a number of guys that I've never replaced, and the other guys have absorbed those hours. So now we're just building it up, a little bit more flexibility, and if we want to include some additional ranger shifts for services, then we have the guys and the manpower to do it. Currently, we don't have that flexibility because everybody has their set days,
Right.
and if there's anything more, the guys are like, I'm all set, I don't need any more. So we're kind of just giving ourselves some breathing space, and as well as we're doing more golf.
So it is
going-
new hires.
The new hires, yes, but they are replacements of positions that we've had. Correct?
Right, like especially like the full-time one. You know,
Almost exactly
Al
the
retired,
same
and Zach would be the
Yeah.
replacement. So that's a direct replacement for
Correct.
someone who left. Okay, so we had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And the golf season fees for 2023, do we really mean 2023 or going into FY '23?
22, I'm sorry.
22. The
I have
22 season.
a landscape version that makes it a little bit easier so you don't have to flip back and forth on the pages. That's basically your playing season as dated on the sheet from March through December, and then the applicable quantities of rounds for each product mix, each product that we have listed on the description. So you have your descriptions, and then your quantities, and then if you go past the sales column, your current 21 rate that we're currently at, and then I just put in these increases as an idea of a proposal for discussion. They are not obviously concrete. You guys decide what we're gonna do. So it basically went $2 per round all the way through, $1 on the cart, and $1 on the 9-hole round. So up to pretty much across the board, and $1 on the 9 holes. And then in comparison to our competition, George, yeah, John and I had discussed it. Ed discussed it, I think, with John. I discussed it with Isaac Moniz in the shop through the season. And our closest competitor was the Whale. And in the past, our closest competitor that we've gone head to head with has always been Bucoy Brook. And weekdays, they were like $6 more than
They
us.
went, I think it's more than that.
And
now.
on the weekend, it's like 13 to 15 bucks more a round. So,
I did try to look last night, knowing that we were gonna do this, and most of the courses I researched were still at the winter rates. There was nothing for this coming season. So I would imagine they're going through the same process.
Yeah.
And it won't be probably, you won't be able to see that probably till the beginning of March or the end of February, somewhere around there. But the rates that, like Dana was saying, we're still the best show in this general area. Within 30 miles, at least 40 miles.
I think the Whale might have been like even with us on a certain rate, but not on all their rates. They only match us on maybe, I think it was Twilight or something.
Their rates don't fluctuate as much as ours either. There's a lot of courses that I noticed that they have weekend rates, the typical 9-hole, 18-hole weekend, 9-hole, 18-hole weekday. But after that, there wasn't a lot of fluctuation about like Twilight or after 1 o'clock or that kind of stuff. It was always just straight across the board, most of them. There were some that were a little different, but we still beat them out.
Yeah. Bucoy, I think they shot themselves in the foot when
Yeah.
they sold to another private owner, and that person put all their money into the restaurant and the bar facility, and then he just totally put the golf on the back burner, and he paid the price at a crucial time, and we benefited from it.
Good. You gotta
Make your bed, you gotta lie.
look at this,
Yeah.
those other courses are gonna go up no matter what. It's just that how much, I don't think it's up, possibly more than what we are, I would think. So that
I would think so too.
So that will still put us in that situation that we're, a very good deal.
Right, a good day. And it kind of follows the line of $1 or $2 around
Right.
every year, so.
Yeah, well, that,
So we don't get too far,
so you
too
don't get,
much of them.
you don't get whacked coming into the season saying, it's $7 more a round.
Right.
What?
Correct.
After a while.
Yeah,
So if
no,
you
I
go
think
easy,
it's a-
like we've been doing.
Plus the $10 for parking.
That valet park.
Then the dipping.
I brought this up since we're into wages, rates. I did bring this up and we didn't come to any conclusion about the fundraising tournaments for the people in the town, the organizations in the town. I suggested we do $55, but they have to be town-oriented. They have to be within the town. In other words, you can't get like New Bedford Fire Department over here and give them the same rate as we would give
The town.
Lions, Old Colony, the Little
Old
League,
Park Lily, yeah.
Cushing
things like
Police.
that. I think Ed, brought this up too, that, there was some stuff with that Swansea and some other, that how much they do for the general public in their town. And it was well put, they do quite a bit. And in return, you get the pat on the shoulders. Well, the golf course, enabled us to make this kind of money. So my suggestion would we go $55 on
Right, we got we were at 62 on the weekends. The number here is to add 2 to it, so roughly 64 next year, and then if whatever you guys decided for a town rate, town rate.
But it can't be an individual.
Oh,
You know what I mean? It's gotta be,
The group.
I think to your point, John, we need to define what it's going to be.
okay.
So if we could, have Dana or somebody put together exactly what
I'll sit with you.
the parameters
Okay.
are
Yeah.
and what the expectations are.
Okay.
Because New Bedford Fire is going to be asking, hey, how come you're doing this for
Well,
so-and-so and not for
because,
us.
yeah, and I would tell him
Those
because,
guys are pretty
So
good.
if
yeah.
we have it
Yeah.
to find out,
that's right.
They actually
because-
get the wheel for free.
Yeah, because the money stays in the town,
They play
and it
it.
benefits the people, the kids, everybody in the town.
Man, the well may only be 9 holes pretty soon.
Hopefully so.
When they pass that thing.
You know, you're right, Ed,
That's
there,
right.
there might be that, but I think as a golf committee and as a town that owns a course, that this is something that we
I
should
totally
give
agree.
back to those people.
Totally agree.
So
Okay.
then
Give a
you,
discount
around,
to town people
Well,
anyway.
when as a
has to
follow-
be a town, a Acushnet,
Resident.
a Acushnet resident
Organization.
organization.
A town function, yeah.
A town organization, yeah. I mean, you could get people in, I didn't want to bring this
Yeah,
up.
you have to go town organization, because you could have a town resident.
Correct.
Who has an outside group,
Yeah.
and it's not the same as
No,
a
it's
town
gotta be an
organization.
organization inside the
Affiliated
town,
with the
or that the
town.
kids, or the people in this town are involved in.
It benefits from.
Kids from, like, the Lions Club, like Old Colony,
baseball.
we have
Yes.
students there. I mean, so that benefits them, and so on, Little League, Fairhaven, Acushnet Little League.
Right.
You know, it's the same thing, you know, I mean,
We have
Then-
children in
then maybe
Fairhaven
we need to
schools
get a
too.
list together and sign off on that list, that these groups are eligible.
Fall under that.
okay,
Right.
all right, I'll sit with you, I'll get together with you. It's not a lot.
Or
of
if
No, I know.
not, or if
It-
not, you bring
No,
it
but that's
before the
good. If we
committee.
make that list, someone comes to me, I'll say, hey, you have to get approval by the golf committee to get put on the list.
Correct.
Then I'll say, Ed, there's maybe 6 that I know of, maybe, and they don't always do it.
Right.
Like the Little League doesn't do
But
it all
maybe
the time.
somebody else will want to, so.
Yeah, okay, well, there you go, yep, all right.
Well, there's some people that raise money for the other organizations, like, I know a few that they ran a cocktail party with us one time, that he has MS, and he wants to contribute that, so they run fundraisers to
You
go
know,
for
this is
MS.
what, it's gonna
That's
have
what
to be
they were
well
pushing the
defined
people.
for that,
But they were
because,
original residents.
yeah,
So
You
that's
know
the
what I
thing you gotta
mean?
watch
You- I
out.
So what do you think about that? Does that fall, would that
I
fall
don't
under the
think that would
jurisdiction
fall
or it doesn't
into
fall
that.
into ju-
I have to
jurisdiction?
think about it.
Maybe.
That's something we have to
Just
discuss
thinking about
that.
it, maybe it's something
If
that
it
is,
does or
you know,
doesn't.
a non-profit group like Old Colony is non-profit.
Yeah, non-profit.
You know, Fairhaven used that.
yeah.
Fairhaven Acushnet Youth Athletics is a non-profit group.
Right.
Somebody's
Right.
like, oh, you know, not to diminish it, but like Uncle Joe needs a liver and he has a fundraiser for Uncle Joe. Well, Uncle Joe wasn't a non-profit
Non-profit.
organization.
Right,
Right, so I mean,
Right.
that's
Exactly.
something, you know, again, it's more just to have a clear cut
yes,
thing so we can
Yes.
define what it is.
you're right, that's exactly it.
Well, you get to tell Uncle Joe.
Yeah, and the other point that I would like to make a personal opinion on this is, you know, with the rates, there's really not that many resident rounds that don't fall within the specials. I would not want to see the $2 increase in the resident rates, the 9 and the 18. You put them all together, there's only 1,800 resident rounds that are not falling under one of the special pricings anyway. There's only 3,600 for the year, so I think it's just a gesture to the townspeople to keep it those 4, you know, a weekday 9 and 18 and weekend 9 and 18.
Keep those
Not
rates the same.
increase
I agree with that.
4 rates.
I would suggest, I think so, my suggestion would we, at our next meeting, go through every line item
Yeah.
and what it is and what we're proposing, so.
And this is great to see because we can see the volume at each one of these levels, so.
Because then they're gonna wanna know.
Now, what do you mean, Ed, with line items, with regards to, Pricing?
That's it, yes.
gotcha.
So it's very clear what we're charging.
Mhm.
So I asked you the other day, what's a 9-hole resident rate? for the
Resident,
card?
9 is
I
18.
couldn't find it on the website or whatever. I said, what the hell's, you know, what, you had $35 for 18,
Yeah,
but I wasn't sure what was.
yeah, 9
Nine,
is,
so-
9 is 18 walking.
I think, and we're talking about the pass holders going up, or.
That is proposed,
proposal.
well, yeah, the idea is on here,
And
Two-
what-
basically $2 a round.
Right. And what's the discount? Calculate what the discount in
I didn't
savings-
run that, I just,
Right.
I figured everything was going up, keep it in balance, go up
Right.
$2 a round.
Just a quick calculation, it's like a 23% discount, which is pretty.
Pretty nice.
It's worked thus far. So it must be good enough.
Yes, I know, well.
Crazy, not
Oh,
to.
before we used to discount $200 because
Right. Yeah, we were
So-
chasing them,
Right,
now they're
so-
chasing us.
Right, so we just need to understand. My quick calculation is that with the amount of cart use, pass holders with carts, the 61 of the 40 cart and the 22 of the 20,
Mm-hmm.
it counts, my calculation based on the 54 weekend special comes to a saving of like
Oh, it's huge.
$35,000. So you talked about the golf course being full out most of the season. That's 32,000 we're leaving on the table. So I think we just need to go over that again, discuss the percent savings for those and see whether it makes sense.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely up for discussion. I think it's the perks built into the program have kind of what has created its intrigue and interest, and has allowed it to expand to the level that it's at now. And I don't you look at this as a customer loyalty program.
Right.
We also are part of that, where we have a loyalty towards them for their support of us all these years. So it's a sensitive area.
But again, the original passport was an attempt to attract businesses,
Oh yeah.
and it never got to that point. We're never really, this is all individual discounts.
Yeah,
And
yeah, you're right.
and where you're sharing it versus the 10-play card, which is an individual card. I think it's, we need more discussion on it.
Yeah, it's a 23%.
So maybe we put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Before, we got time to get it before Board of Selectmen, before we get everything organized. How much, question for you, how much does it cost to print up those passbooks?
No, they do the cards. They were about, I think it was like under $1,000, like $900.
For how many? Yeah.
I don't know. I think I print up maybe
they're
200 to 400 books. Yeah, I'd have to pull up the invoice.
Yeah, for $2 or $3 a month.
All right. So we'll put it on an agenda.
Don't get hung up on that, the book. You know what I mean? That's paper. You're giving them a book of paper, basically, and they feel good about it.
No. Easy pass. All right. So speaking of our next meeting, that's the next thing on here is the date of the next meeting office in town.
I'll check with
It's gonna
Lisa.
be before the 15th, right?
So then we can come next meeting and
That'll
put
work.
down and say, here's the ones that are eligible, if
If we
they
want,
want.
if we want
if
to
they
get the
want,
next
and
selectmen's
if
meeting
there
is
is
the
space
15th.
available.
Yes.
But maybe we
Right.
can wait,
First
we
come,
can
first
go
served.
even further.
Well,
Except for the ones that are grandfathered.
And if you want to be before the next selectmen's meeting, you can't be on Thursday because the agenda items have to be
Yeah,
in.
right,
Current
so we
schedule
assume
from
that
last
the
year.
one after that
Yeah,
will be on February.
So they need what they-
First come, first served.
Are they meeting every Tuesday or
If-
once a week?
if
Every
there
other
is
Tuesday.
Every other.
currently
So they're going to meet on the 15th,
Yes.
then they meet
Based
on
on
the 2nd of March, or the 1st of March?
Like I know these guys are people for the 21st.
We can figure that out.
He's
So
gonna ask you
February,
to-
you got,
Like February,
Hey, how'd you make out? Well, okay,
school
it's gonna happen, it's just,
school vacation.
it just takes a little time.
Third week?
if you're looking at Thursdays in February, you have 3, 10, 17, and 24.
17. 17, I don't know if I got an
I don't
appointment
know,
in
I go
Boston.
to Florida.
Your daughter was-
Sometime in February. But I don't have anything.
We're going to say the 24th for now, we can always change it.
February 24th,
All right. 4:30 here.
4:30. Yeah, I'll give you a buzz. Go out for I'll bring it up to Castle Pig and we can hash it out.
Any other questions, Ms. Hodges?
See if we can get
Actually, I do.
Lisa.
Around the DPW. So it sounds like they do whatever they do for you guys, and you pay for the materials, correct?
Yeah.
You pay for the labor? How does that work?
It's my understanding that we don't pay for the labor. It's town employees doing work on town property, so we pay for all the materials.
You're an enterprise fund. You're not a
Well,
town department.
I understand that, but this is how it was presented to me. So this isn't my particular opinion, but I'm confused about the enterprise fund, because in certain circumstances, we're treated like a true enterprise fund, in other circumstances, we're not. So I don't know.
I don't know
somebody-
about that.
Yeah,
All
I was
I
gonna say,
know
somebody
is-
can explain to me how that
Well,
works.
I mean, the taxpayers are paying the labor for whatever's being done at the golf course. And if you go before the other committee you talked about to get some, funding, that's also funded by taxpayers. So I don't really, legally, I don't know. I just find it very odd that an enterprise fund, isn't paying the wage part of it. And I get it, it's a lot cheaper, you don't go out to bid, I get all that. I just don't know, has anyone checked with legal counsel as to whether this somehow screws up the idea of an enterprise fund for the course? I really don't know.
Whether it was Kathy Doan, whether it was Alan Catino, whether it was Julie Hebert, they've all known, they've been part of it, they've been suggesting that we do it working together. I mean, I kind of have an issue with looking at it the other way, whether we're an enterprise fund or not. If the DPW can fit it into their schedule 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, why should they be charging any town department or any town facility or town property to do work that's already filled into their day, right? They're helping us out because they can, and it's a benefit for the entire town. And it's been that way for many years, regardless of who's been the finance director or the town
Right.
administrator.
Yep.
Right, so I think it's just a win-win for everybody.
Okay, well, I'm a taxpayer.
Yeah? And
You all are taxpayers.
Of course, right. We all
You
know
know,
that. Well,
and I think this needs to be raised. I really do, because I think people aren't aware of how this is going down. Do you have any idea in 2021 what the hourly cost for labor would have been? If you guys have had to pay for the labor that they did on your golf course, what would that have amounted to? Is it a big number? Is it a little number?
I could calculate it, but I can tell you that it wouldn't be at prevailing wage. It doesn't make any sense for the town of Acushnet to spend money one way or the other to do something. For instance, if I build a bunker on the second hole that cost me, a bunker that cost $6,000, the Country Club of New Bedford can do it for $6,000. I have to do it for $12,000 to $13,000 because I have to pay prevailing wage, which is ridiculous.
Right.
Which is because we as a municipality, there aren't too many municipalities that can afford that prevailing wage. So if they do have, as they explained, resources within town that are capable of doing work, then why not save money over money? And if we're going to calculate that, we should put an effort in to calculate the value of the open space in dollars and cents that the golf course provides to the town of Acushnet and the taxpayers of Acushnet.
Well, wait a minute. How does the average taxpayer benefit from the golf course?
Just by open space, by increased revenue coming into your town from
Well, it's not
people
coming into
outside.
It reduces the
It's not
population
coming
of the
into
town,
the
so that
general
you don't
ledger.
qualify to have a high school.
Oh, I don't see that ever happen.
all right, so I don't think this is the.
I
mean, this is- I'm just saying that
Conversation
I
right
would
now.
be interested in knowing
So we've always
the
been a
hourly
town.
labor cost. What is the labor cost for the work that has been done at the golf course? And let's start with 2021. I would like to know what that number is.
2021, we actually didn't do that much work at all.
Well, then 2020, whatever, whatever. If you have this information, Steve, perhaps you wouldn't
I don't
mind
have it.
sharing.
I can estimate it by sitting down and looking at how many days they were here and how many people were here.
Yeah, but even that, you're not.
I don't think this is worthy of discussing this right now at this point in time, so it's.
I raise it as an issue. I raise it as a question. And to say, well, this is how it's always been done.
Yeah, but I think the last thing I'm going to say on this is, okay, if they weren't, did it costs the DPW, right? If they're saying that they can fit it into their schedule, right, because it's the time that they have available and doing whatever, then why wouldn't, you know, enterprise fund is an accounting mechanism. It doesn't make us our own entity, right? We're still the town of Acushnet. The town of Acushnet owns the golf course. You know, and it's not owned by this board. It's not owned by itself. Right, so if one town, right, everything that we do ultimately goes through the selectmen, right? So if the town as a whole has a department with manpower, has a department with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment that we all purchase, whether it's benefiting the golf course, the road, or cutting the grass at parting ways, what does it matter? And we're all one town together.
Well, yeah, but the golf course is a separate entity. And
Well, I
if you
mean,
read the
Well,
language
the
about
water
an
department
enterprise
and the sewer
fund,
department.
it will say it must not rely on general fund. It must not. So,
Right, it's an accounting mechanism. That's what it is,
well, you
right?
can call it whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I mean, it's valid.
So if another town department has a need that I can fulfill because I have a full-time mechanic, I shouldn't help them out, like fixing the snow blower for the town hall or helping the DPW with a piece of equipment that they don't have time or resources to put into at that particular time. Just because I'm an enterprise fund, I shouldn't volunteer to help them out?
Right.
It doesn't make much sense.
Right, when we loan the mower
But they're
out
not
to the department.
volunteering,
Yeah.
Steve.
Huh?
They're not volunteering their time to the golf course.
But my employee is volunteering his time to fix that equipment. I'm volunteering we're taking golf carts and donating them to the Apple Peach Festival so they can drive around in the Apple Peach
Just
Festival.
trying to help out the town.
We just try- I mean,
we've
it's-
always been town friendly. We've always had resident rates.
get it.
We've
I
had
hear
resident
ya.
days of the golf course.
I get it.
You know what I mean?
And there was a time when Alan Catino talked about when the debt on the golf course is paid, then that excess cash flow comes back to the taxpayer.
It's coming.
I'm not hearing anything about that.
2027.
First of all, your debt's not paid.
It's not-
I know.
it's not 2027,
But it's
right?
almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be going here month by month, year by year, struggling by to provide what we provide on the golf course. And then at the end of the time, when we actually have money at the end of the year, the town's gonna go out and buy a few fire trucks and a couple police cruisers, and I'm still gonna be struggling, is what you're telling me.
No, that's not what I'm telling you. No. Hey, it's $500,000 in debt service, right?
Not that much. So anyway, the next thing on our item is executive session under General Law 3821A2. Conduct strategy sessions in preparation of negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel if an open meeting will have a detrimental effect on the bargaining and litigating position of the public body as the chair so declares, and the board will now return to public session. As the chairman, I do so declare. This requires a roll call vote. Do we have, first of all, do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Doing this today?
Yes, for 5
Yes.
minutes. So, Manny?
Yes.
Manny made the motion, Ed made the second to the motion, I believe. So Ed?
Yes.
Manny?
Yes.
I vote yes. Yes, John? Okay.
Yeah.
We will not be coming back out. Thank you very much.